Good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on what time you're watching this. My name's Connor from 905 Review. You guys are checking out our series Give This a Spin, where I recommend you some of my favorite albums. And what a classic we have on our hands today with Led Zeppelin 2. Led Zeppelin got their start in the summer of 1968. Guitarist Jimmy Page's previous group, the Yardbirds, had just fallen apart, and he was eager to be in a band again. While there were a number of great musicians he had in mind, and some that he would collaborate with at this time, after a bit of bouncing around, it was settled that Robert Plant would sing, John Bonham would be the drummer, and John Paul Jones would handle keyboard and bass. Heavily influenced by the blues, the foursome would tour Europe and in no time at all had enough material for a studio album, their debut being released in January of 1969 during their first tour of North America. This album and tour were both such smash hits that Led Zeppelin really carved a name for themselves in the rock world. They were hot, and why slow down now? By April of the same year, they were back touring North America again and making 4 times as much money as they were 2 months ago, while simultaneously working on a follow-up album while on the road. Let's find out why these guys were reaching stardom, first with the single Whole Lotta Love. It starts off with this good driving riff, one that eventually BBC listeners would call the greatest riff of all time. Before long, Plant comes in with his enticing voice, and he doesn't care to hide his intentions. They give you that for a good minute and a half, but after the second singing of the chorus, man do we get weird. Bonham keeps a steady low-key beat, and it feels like we're just improvising out here. I remember there was one time way back when I had this playing in the car, and the girl I was dating at the time said this sounded like my car was breaking down. Notice how I said, was dating. That's fine, my wife doesn't like Led Zeppelin either. But that's all killed by a drum fill which prompts a solo from Page, and my god, even after 1,000 times hearing this, it still hits. And you might have thought that we were back now, but they do end up taking a second break, though this one much shorter, just so they can hit something like that again. And what a way to begin the album, by the way. So how in the world do you even follow that up? Led Zeppelin chooses a different pace entirely, with the relaxing opening of What Is and What Should Never Be.
Oh, what fun it all would be. And what's to stop us, pretty baby?
These soft verses swing right into the chorus, where the band chooses to kick it up a notch. And after the third time we hear the chorus, they get into this little bit of a jam to end on. Let me tell you, I had no idea what I was in for researching this one, because I read it was suspected that Plant wrote this about his wife's younger sister, which would make sense given the title, because, yeah, Should Never Be is right. Come to find out, 14 years later, Plant and his wife divorce, and then he impregnates her younger sister. I mean, I'm floored. I had zero clue about any of this. I'm leaving you with that, and I'm moving on. Next is the Lemon song. This one is slower too, but we're back with the electric guitar for a nice groove.
I should have quit you long time ago.
There is no chorus on this one, but after every couple verses they break out into this wicked up-tempo jam, and even when they rest back into the verses, what a great transition that is. And if you thought Plant was upfront about his interests on Whole Lotta Love, oh boy. But we do ease things down to end the first side of the record with Thank You. And by the way, thank you for being here and checking out this video. It is a pretty song, and they do nab that feeling of gratefulness or adoration.
Kind of woman, I give you my all. Kind of woman, nothing more.
Somebody said this was dedicated to Plant's wife, but sure, the same guy who was singing about her sister 2 songs ago. I'm still not over that. Left to its organ and acoustic guitar, the song fades out so gracefully, so you're allowed as much time as you like, enjoying that moment of bliss before you get up and flip the record over. Unlike the CD version, which would just keep moving on, and your moment is instantly interrupted by the sharp guitar riff that starts the 5th song, Heartbreaker. And you want to talk about greatest riffs. When I read that Whole Lotta Love was voted greatest riff, I was like, I don't know, I think that's overrating it. Come to realize, it's not even the best riff on its own album. And my god, what a tune. They let the bass line lead the way while Bonham offers a simple beat, creating such a groove for Plant to belt out his lyrics while also not oversaturating the awesome guitar riff Stay by offering it in short, small doses. Things tense up around the 2-minute mark, after which they give Jimmy the stage. After that solo, we change into something new, but he keeps going, now supported by the band. And we end the song reverting to its original sound for one last verse. This segues so smoothly into Living Loving Maid that radio stations often play the 2 songs consecutively. This one's led by a good fun riff, while Plant sings about a groupie who kept following the band around despite them not being interested at all. Now, it's not my favorite Zeppelin song, and it could just be that, going back to the radio part, so frequently I hear this following Heartbreaker, and you're pairing it up with a song it doesn't stand a chance against. But with that being said, I don't hate the song, and I'm certainly not its biggest hater, considering Jimmy Page hates the song so much that I guess the band agreed to just never play it live, as he would later admit that it was just kind of like a pop filler song that they put in. So we get back to something more tame with Ramble On. And on this focus tune, Plant abandons the intimacy/relationship-based lyricism we've heard almost exclusively thus far, instead taking the opportunity to showcase his storytelling chops. Well, he does still say he's searching for a queen, but he also explains the journey Led Zeppelin's on, all the traveling they do, the performing they do, and he likens the band to the characters from Lord of the Rings.
But now it's time for me to go. The autumn moonlight's my way.
Because when you're in the darkest depths of Mordor and the evil one has stolen your treasure, you gotta ramble on.
I'm going round the world, I gotta find my girl on my way. I've been this way 10 years till the day. Ramble on. I found the queen of all my dreams.
We follow that up with the incredible instrumental Moby Dick. And what an incredible showcase this is for John Bonham. While he starts off supported by a rugged Jimmy Page riff, after about a minute, he's on his own. One thing that separated him from nearly every other drummer of his time was just how hard he played. Now, there are better examples than this of his sheer force, but the band really allows him the opportunity to do his thing here. They limit this jam to 3 minutes before Jimmy and John Paul come back in, because at live shows, he would frequently go on for as long as 20 minutes, even 30 minutes. And given his ferocious style, it wouldn't be rare to break a stick while playing, so sometimes he would just grab another mid-performance, other time he would say fuck it and just keep going pounding the drums barehanded. Absolute freak, one of one, gone way too soon. Alright fellas, let's bring it on home. This starts off as a real bluesy one, that notion especially helped out by the use of harmonica.
John up, going higher, all aboard.
And after that blues homage, we break out into something much more Zeppelin-like, with added energy and some hard rock and riffs. And what else would this be about but going to see your lady? Or maybe it's metaphorical. Maybe you're already actively seeing her and you're bringing it on home. You're getting the job done. One of the neatest parts of studying albums for me is finding the different artworks that random countries release these albums with, such as the 1969 Turkish release of Led Zeppelin 2. Hey, someone's even selling it for $2,400 right now. And they've been releasing it with this artwork, even as recently as 2022, or even on a picture disc back in 2013. That's a lot cooler than the 1970 German and Austrian one. Meanwhile, South Korea's just came out blue. Poland had a number of options, even if they just kind of look like a kid's shitty art project. Meanwhile, there was one from Hungary too. The 1991 Soviet Union CD just utilizes artwork from inside the gatefold. And the Saudi Arabian cassettes actually just combine the two artworks. In 2009, it was released on a picture disc with the actual artwork, the artwork that we recognize. This was the earliest example I saw on Discogs, but they have 1,000 different versions of this album on there, so forgive me if I missed an earlier one. Supposedly it was released on a pink vinyl, and I love the notes section on this entry. I never even thought about the possibility of counterfeit albums being sold, but I guess it makes sense. Okay, but there is a legitimate 2013 German clear record. In 2014, a deluxe edition of this album was released featuring backing tracks and rough mixes of songs. If you got the digital version of this, it featured kind of negative looking artwork. There was also a super deluxe edition made, and it was just all these same contents that you get on both CD and vinyl. In 2017, the Germans released this on a red vinyl that also featured a chrome sleeve, while the English did the same, just with a purple vinyl. Led Zeppelin 2 was a huge hit that really helped cement the band as superstars. The album reached the #1 spot on the charts of 8 different countries, has since been certified 12 times platinum in the US, with over 3.5 million other sales worldwide. High scores all around. Critics praised it for the roughness and edge that it brings, with some even going as far as saying that this was the start of metal music. It has been on many best of lists, and certainly ones that focus on British music or rock music. And there is a lot of rocking to do with this record. Even when the band gives you some tender moments, the energy is often just around the corner. It certainly has some of their best material. However, for me personally, I can't say it's on par with their dynamic debut album. Even still, I will be stamping Led Zeppelin 2 with an A grading. There's tons of good stuff on here. Let's establish right now that there's no bad songs. So I can't really fault anybody who considers this their favorite Zeppelin album. It just doesn't speak to me the same way their first one does. And speaking of, one thing that I did bring up in my review of their debut album was the controversy of uncredited direct influence, with Zeppelin, of course, being big fans of blues. While it was alleged that roughly 2/3 of the songs on their debut took from previous artists, that number is down to 1/3 here. The instances in question here are Whole Lotta Love, for which they were sued for using lyrics from a Willie Dixon song, the Lemon Song, which derived from Killing Floor by Howlin' Wolf, and Bring It On Home, with that little bluesy intro being a reference to Sonny Boy Williamson without actually referencing Sonny Boy Williamson. Those wrap up my thoughts on this incredible sophomore album from Led Zeppelin. Let me know yours. As always, it's such a blessing to have you here, and until next time. But real quick, before we take off, what were your thoughts on Led Zeppelin with their album Led Zeppelin 2? Did I rate it too high or did I rate it too low? Let me know down below, as well as any other thoughts you might have, any comments you might want to share, or any albums you want me to check out. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.